And he's walked down that aisle before as a challenger. He walked down there in Jamaica against Joe Frazier all the way back in January of 1973. He came in one more time as a challenger against Evander Holyfield in 1991. If you count the WBO, he came in as a challenger June of '93 against Tommy Morrison. This will be the 4th time he's coming in as a challenger for the heavyweight championship of the world, Rich.
Foreman will outweigh his opponent tonight, Michael Moore, by 28 pounds. However, he outweighed Evander Holyfield by 47 pounds when they met, and that is not close, actually, to being the largest gap in heavyweight history. If you go way back to the 30s, Primo Carnero once outweighed Tommy Loughran by 86 pounds in a fight. So this is not unprecedented.
Light heavyweight champ at the time. He was even moving up in class. George weighed 257 when he fought Holyfield, though. He weighs 250 tonight. Looked very svelte at the weigh-in.
Yes, you could see it earlier in the week that his face actually looked thinner. He was not puffy in the face, so you knew then that the guy had worked himself into a reasonable degree of condition, and certainly very good for him. There with the referee Joe Cortez right in front of him, and now Foreman will await the arrival of the world heavyweight champion, Michael Moore. Moore should be coming out of his dressing room momentarily. George is going to lean up against the ropes and rest for a few minutes. Angelo Dundee, the legendary trainer in boxing, there with him. And here comes Big George from one corner of the ring over to the other. And here comes the world heavyweight champion, being led out by the man in front of him, Teddy Atlas. There he is, Michael Moore, 35-0, 30 knockouts, 26 years of age. He turns 27 next week. Born in Brooklyn, New York, lives now in Detroit, and won the heavyweight championship of the world April 22nd with a narrow 12-round decision over Evander Holyfield, winning by points of 1 and 4 on 2 judges' cards. The other had it a draw, but nonetheless, Moore not only showed great skills in that fight, but great competitiveness and great heart by climbing off the canvas against the determined champion, Evander Holyfield, and going on to win the decision.
Well, you know, you can't say enough about it, and you can't say enough about Teddy Atlas, who's given credit for turning around Michael Moore as a heavyweight. When things were looking lethargic and bouts were going a distance, Teddy Atlas is the guy that has been in his ear and has given as much credit and has got his own notoriety. And for those who don't remember, Teddy Atlas was instrumental in the amateur career of Mike Tyson.
Michael Moore has said this week that he feels he is in a no-win situation.
That's happened before in a lot of fights where you've got a situation where if he beats the old man, so he beat the old man. If he loses to the old man, how could you lose to a guy almost 46 years old? So he might be in a no-win, but let me tell you, when he goes to the bank on Monday, he's in a win situation.
Yeah, that's a win-win-win situation. Michael Moore warming up very briefly, glistening there, shaven-headed menace.
And he's entitled to this type of a defense. Let's not forget when Holyfield won the championship, who his defenses were against.
Now up to Michael Buffer.
Hotel Casino and Theme Park of Las Vegas, Nevada, where tonight, fight night and main events, along with Top Rank Incorporated in association with your undisputed, undefeated king of beers, Budweiser, proud to be your bud, present World Championship Boxing. On behalf of the aforementioned, our best wishes for a speedy recovery to Mr. Dan Duva and Ms. Carol Hamp, who are unable to attend tonight. This bout is sanctioned by the International Boxing Federation and the World Boxing Association with the approval and sanctioning of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chairman Dr. James Nave. Commissioners at ringside, Nat Carasali, Luther Mack, Dr. Elias Ghanem, and Crispin Rivera. Executive Director Mark Ratner. Chief Physician is Dr. Flip Homansky. Also at ringside, Dr. James Wish Game and Dr. William Berliner. The timekeeper is James Cavan. Counting for the knockdown seconds, Mike Lascella. Representing the International Boxing Federation, President Robert W. Lee, and Supervisor ringside, Alvin Goodman. Representing the World Boxing Association as Supervisor is York Van Nixon. The scoring for this bout will be done by 3 judges. It will be done on the 10-point must system, and the 3 judges assigned are Dwayne Ford, Chuck Giampa, and Jerry Roth. And when the bell rings, the man in charge of the action working in his 71st world title bout, for referee Joe Cortez. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of the Grand Garden Inn, the MGM Grand Hotel, Casino, and Theme Park, let's get ready to rumble! 12 rounds of boxing for the heavyweight championship of the world. Introducing first, in the blue corner, wearing red and weighing 250 pounds, this 1968 Olympic gold medalist has a professional record of 72 victories against 4 losses. 67 of those victories have come by way of knockouts, and his KO to win ratio is the greatest in heavyweight history. And tonight, he comes into this ring looking to add his name to another page of heavyweight history. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing from Houston, Texas, the challenger, the former heavyweight champion of the world, Big George Foreman. And across the ring in the red corner, wearing gold with red trim, weighing an even 222 pounds. This 2-time world champion brings a perfect professional record of 35-0, and 30 of his victories have come by way of knockouts. He is only the second man in the history of this sport to successfully step up from the world light heavyweight title to the world heavyweight championship. Tonight, he steps into this ring ready to put his perfect record on the line in his first heavyweight title defense. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, presenting the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Michael Moore.
Michael, George, we went over the rules in the dressing room. Obey my commands at all times. Give me a good, clean fight, and bear one thing in mind. I'm the boss man in here. Take hands, good luck.
There was a deafening roar for George Foreman when he was introduced. A good-sized cheer, but some boos mixed in for Michael Moore. Foreman clearly the sentimental favorite here this evening. And there, Teddy Atlas right in the face of Michael Moore with last-minute instructions.
Well, and I got to tell you, they really got that corner of Moore crowded with some people, too. They got Ralph Citro and Miguel Diaz as cutman, and Mo Smith. There's 4 people working the corner of Michael Moore, all big veterans.
Foreman will try to work that long, great left jab of his.
And for those of you who've been out of the country, Michael Moore, of course, is a southpaw, and George has only fought one other lefty his entire career, and that was Bobby Crabtree back in '87, who he stopped in 6.
It's a quick combination by Moore to start the action. Moore coming forward and actually has Foreman going back. We expected to see George try to start faster than he did in his fight against Tommy Morrison and perhaps go a little bit more for broke in this bout. Foreman very calm, one of the most relaxed fighters you will ever see in boxing.
I got to tell you, though, Richard, looks like he's put on 10, 15 pounds since the weigh-in. George does not look... You know, remember, they weighed in 2 days early for this fight. They weighed in on Thursday afternoon. It's been more than 48 hours since the weigh-in.
Maybe George figured he was going to get in great shape right up until the weigh-in. Now we will see as Moore is trying to stay close. He's not using a lot of lateral movement here. He's staying within punching range of Foreman. And it would be interesting to see if Foreman tries to use the push-it-off technique that he's been successful with in the past.
Well, at the moment, Foreman is not fighting cross-armed like he normally does. He's fighting from, I wouldn't even call it a peekaboo stance. It's just a traditional boxing stance. He doesn't have his arms crossed. Moore is establishing the jab, and as you said, fighting on the inside, looking just to double up on that jab and then come in with that great left of his.
This is perhaps the first surprise that Foreman has not come out real fast here in round number 1. and Moore right in front of him, where hardly anybody expected him to be.
Well, surprisingly enough, too, Mora only has a 1-inch reach deficiency in this. George has had very little reach. He's got the big weight advantage, 2-inch height, but Michael's standing right in there, landing that jab at will. George looks very tentative and very slow.
Trying to keep Moore away. They're just using his arms as a defensive tool. Now Foreman snaps the jab out. There's the first right hand by Foreman, and followed a left jab. Crowd roars. To little effect, though. Moore has been knocked down 4 times in his career, but has always gotten up and always won.
Those knockdowns coming from Everett Martin, Bert Cooper, and of course the last time against Evander Holyfield for a knockdown that judge tonight, Jerry Roth, who judged that fight, only got to see that round as a 10-10 round in spite of the fact that Mora was on the floor.
There's again the left-right combination by Foreman, but that right hand going in fairly slowly, and he still reaches Moore. George's punch is very slow so far. Bell ends round 1. As usual, not bothering to sit on a stool between rounds. Moore was told by Teddy Atlas to move a little, not stay within punching range.
Well,
of Foreman.
Interestingly enough, he's saying you're in range of George's hands. Don't be in so close. He got caught with that one right hand lead that Foreman threw, the only punch that of really effectiveness that Foreman was able to land with in the first round.
Moore getting that jab to work some now here at the start of round number 2, and Foreman trying to answer with the same.
And showing some motion now.
Michael Moore going out trying to obey the commands of Teddy Atlas, whom he has a lot of belief in and a lot of respect for. He went through trainers before. He was trained by Emanuel Stewart for a long time, left Stewart, now Foreman with a right hand, was trained briefly by the Duva-George Benton combination, and a left jab by Foreman now.
Went through some real changes during that period of time. George starting to find the range now.
Yep, that was a fine left jab by Foreman, and again brings a rise out of the crowd. Moore had a slight smile on his face. Foreman not expending a lot of energy.
And in the second coming of George, he hasn't been notoriously fast in the first rounds. If you remember the first round even of the Jerry Cooney fight.
Right, he was hurt in that fight. In fact, he wobbled near the end of that first round, but came back to finish off Cooney in the second round.
I think he wants to find out exactly what Michael has, and is Michael capable of hurting him? Remember, George has only been knocked out once in his entire career. A fellow by the name of Ali.
Foreman turned pro back in 1969. Michael Moore was 1.5 years old on the night that George Foreman turned professional. Now Moore coming on, getting his jab home and following it up with a left cross. Moore working the jab, fighting carefully, moving a little bit, sliding some. Here's that jab again from Moore.
See, George is eating a lot of jabs, though, Rich, and he's going to get puffed up. He's got that habit now where that face gets puffy like it did in the Alex Stewart fight, did in the Tommy Morrison fight. And he was lucky they were looking to stop the Stewart fight. Angelo saved that fight for him. I'm convinced of that. He pushed the referee away and said, go look at the other guy.
Moore fighting very effectively now, utilizing the jab. There it is again, doubling up on it. Uppercut by Moore in close.
The only thing I don't like about what Moore is doing
Good right hand by Foreman, knocks Moore back a step or two. George's most effective punch so far, and here comes Moore answering back quickly.
And I was about to say, Rich, I don't like the fact that Moore was only circling in one direction, and George is just going to time him, and there it was.
Final seconds of round 2. Pretty good action round from these two heavyweights. Both fighters had their moments in that second round. Who'd you give that second round to?
I still thought Moore won the round, but I thought George was coming on quite well and landed some good shots. It was a close round to call, though.
Foreman walking forward. Teddy Atlas has talked a lot to Moore and a lot of psychology before this fight about what Foreman was going to try to do to him, how he was going to try to con him, how he's going to try to get him to submit and break his will. Two good jabs by Foreman, but the follow-up right was not there.
Landed a good right-hand lead on Moorer then.
We have not seen the crossover stance from George Foreman.
Nor the traditional push-off. He didn't move in on that second jab either, which is why he missed with the right. If you're going to double, good right hand by Moorer. If you're going to double up on the jab, you got to move in on the second one if you're going to land with the right.
Moorer picking up some momentum now, avoiding the punches of Foreman and coming forward and landing. And there he landed a good right hand to the belly. Good round so far here in the third for Michael Moorer.
I've got to think at this point that Foreman's got Moorer outweighed by probably 28 pounds at the weigh-in. I would say it's closer to 40 pounds right now.
It is amazing, but it does look like George wasn't turning down any burgers in the last 2 days. There's a good cracking right hand from George Foreman. But Moorer, sharp right hand.
And Teddy Atlas very nervous that Moorer is fighting in this close, Rich.
Again, the combination from Foreman, but Moorer always answers right back. There's a good right by Moorer.
George is hurt and holds on for the first time in the fight. You better not underestimate that right hand of Moorer, because Moorer is a natural right-hander who converted over to fight lefty.
Plenty for the crowd to cheer about so far for both fighters. Foreman wild with the right hand. Just gets out of the way of a right from Moorer.
Big article in one of the New York papers that was prophesizing that George was going to try a rope-a-dope type of situation here with Moorer, and nothing could be further from the truth. But he's not even fighting a typical George style at this point, and a good body shot by Moorer.
Now the fight has been fought at ring center. Foreman now trying to keep Moorer away with the jab. Just pushing there, he follows up with the right hand. Moorer answers back. Moorer doing a great job of every time Foreman lands something significant, Moorer comes back with 2 or 3 of his own.
And George starting to puff up already. Big welt under the left eye.
Good jabs. Now combination by Moorer drives Foreman back into the ropes. Rally by Moorer to close out the round.
Too much to your right.
That was a pretty big third round, though, for Michael Moorer. And Teddy Atlas not really having to do any coaxing to get Michael Moorer to fight in this fight the way that he did against Holyfield.
He's telling him, pick up the pace. You don't have to go slow because George is going slow. And he said to him point blank, he wouldn't even last as a sparring partner in camp. Teddy feeling very confident at this point. Moorer, though, continues only to move.
Foreman still trying to get that jab to work. Not easy to jab a left-hander. He's got that glove right out in front of you.
Let him out of there. Let him out clean. Let him out clean.
Well, there's the right hand from Foreman. Interestingly enough, in watching the tape of the first of the Holyfield-Moorer fight, Foreman was a commentator and said that he thought that a crossover style and a squared-up style would be very successful against Moorer, but he hasn't used the crossover.
And yet he's not using it. He's not throwing enough right-hand leads, and I don't think he's had enough experience. He's only fought one left-hander in his entire career, as we mentioned before, Bobby Crabtree back in '87. We know that the only left-hander in Foreman's camp was a fighter by the name of Matthew Brooks, who's really a blown-up light heavyweight.
Left hook to the body by
George has nothing, Rich. No timing, very slow, very sluggish.
Now, did you think he'd be a little sharper than this? But he hasn't fought for 17 months, but he comes there with a combination.
I expected a little bit more possibly in the early rounds. I expected a little bit more aggression from George. I expected the cross-arm style, and I expected him to be moving forward.
Trying to come up the middle with that right uppercut. That's the punch that Angelo Dundee said would be successful with Moorer. He felt that coming up the middle with uppercuts, and Foreman does come up the middle well, would be successful in this fight.
Well, Michael's certainly in close enough for George to try to attempt to throw that. He doesn't want to throw it from the outside. We saw what happened to Buster Douglas when he did that against Evander Holyfield. He's in tight enough. Moorer's giving him the target. Moorer's there for him.
Moorer fighting a controlled fight.
I expected Moorer to be fighting much more on the outside, personally. I thought he'd be jabbing. He's much more aggressive in this fight than he was against Evander Holyfield.
Moorer appears supremely confident.
And I was
willing to stand right there in front of George Foreman. Foreman, they're trying to push Moorer off. Comes in and grabs momentarily. An unusual tactic for George. Bell to start round number 5.
Look at the snarl on George's face. It's sort of like, okay, I don't know if that's, whoa.
Nice jab by Moore. Almost leaped in with it, but he really snapped it. Another good jab by Michael Moore. Really putting that jab to work. Foreman's going to have to answer with something because Moore is actually walking through the punches of George Foreman.
Or the lack of them.
Moore's punches are landing cleanly.
He's got to be...
Good body shot from Foreman.
But he's probably out punching George at this point 10-1, and he's landing an enormous amount of his shots.
George trying to outstrength Moore here now.
You just wonder, though, to a certain point, there's this part of me that has to say, is George suckering him in and giving him a false sense of security, and he's just going to land one big bomb somewhere in there, which he never expected Moore to be fighting in this close.
Foreman looked rusty with that exchange. Moore's reflexes, those of a 26-year-old man, remember. No matter what the weights, the records, and personalities, any numbers do not measure reflexes.
Probably the biggest unknown factor is what this 18-month layoff was going to do. He lost his last fight to Tommy Morrison, who has since been exposed to really be nothing. 18 months is the longest layoff he's had at any active part of his career, period. And at 40, almost 46 years of age, unless he's saving something, Rich, there's nothing there.
The key words there, of course, was active part of his career, because he did have that 10-year layoff when he went into the ministry from 1977 through 87. Stayed out of boxing, ballooned up to 320, 350 pounds. There's a good left hand by Foreman. Now Foreman coming forward and moving Moore back a little.
Good right hand lead he landed on Moore's face there.
Foreman having some success here and getting the crowd interested again.
The only other long layoff he ever had besides the 10-year layoff in the present 18-month was after losing to Ali when he came back and fought Ron Lyle. That was about 16 and a half months.
We're in round 5 now. Foreman doing a little bit better work. Now Moore coming back at the end of the round, landing a stiff jab as the round comes to an end. A little bit better round.
Michael started throwing his own left-hand leads of his own that were landing very well on George.
Many of us felt that Moore would try to emulate to some degree what Tommy Morrison did, which was to use some lateral movement, box, move around the ring, but that has not been the case tonight.
I would have guaranteed it, Rich. This fight is not the picture that you would have painted in advance.
Moore right in front of Foreman, sneaking him with the jab. Again.
See, George doesn't move in, though, on the second. He doubled up on the jab, but he's not moving in on the second jab, so he can't land the right effectively.
He did land a right uppercut in close, but Moore taking all the punches that Foreman has thrown and landed tonight very well. Has not been rattled yet. There's a good right hand from George Foreman. But again, Moore answers right back. Moore hardly allows the Foreman fans here to get the cheers out of their collective mouth before he answers back.
Yeah, I mean, very partisan Foreman crowd, but a lot of respect at this point coming over to Mora. If Mora was dancing and running away from Foreman, which is what everybody would have expected, they'd probably be down on Mora. You have to have respect for him that he's standing in there and he's taking the fight to George.
Good jab again from Moore. And again, boy, that's nice work with that right hand from Moore. Foreman still dangerous.
Two
Lands a right hand. George ran into an uppercut, though, on the way in and trying to follow up.
Moorer took two really good right-hand leads from Foreman and came back and was able to fire on his own.
George trying to follow up. But Moorer very dangerous in front of him. Moorer felt those punches. Right hand from Foreman again, partially blocked by Moorer.
You got a question at this point, is Foreman's punch totally gone, or does Michael Moorer have a better chin than we all gave him credit for?
Now here comes Moorer back, crowd roaring.
And I got to say, considering that Moorer was dropped by Holyfield, who's considered a light puncher, and Bigfoot Martin, you got to think that George's punch has finally left him at almost 46 years of age, Rich.
Right hand by Moorer over the outstretched arm of Foreman. Now Moorer goes back to the jab, which was effective for him early in the round. Again, the right hand from Foreman. He's landed numerous times in this round with a right hand. Much more encouraging showing by Foreman in this round. Oh, but a hard, snapping left hand from Michael Moorer. Arnie, as they get ready to begin round 7, do you think there should be any concern in the Moorer corner that he was tagged with so many rights in that round?
Absolutely. And what we didn't pick up on our scene, but I heard through the side, was that Teddy's telling him, got to do more once you get inside. Don't let George get off, and give him two different motions. Don't keep walking in the same direction. So it'll be interesting to see whether he does what Teddy told him, or Michael's going to continue on in close.
Now Moorer again with that stiff jab, and battle of the chants from the two camps here. We hear a George chant now being drowned out by a Michael chant.
See, George trying to pick off that jab and catch it with his left hand and follow with the right, instead of just coming up with his own right hand lead. And Moorer's going right around his hand. See, that's why you would wonder why George in this particular situation would abandon the cross-arm style. He's not catching Moorer's jabs. He's putting it out there to catch it and try to parry it with an open hand, and it's not doing anything for him.
There again, beaten to the punch by Michael Moorer. Good right to the belly by George Foreman. Foreman's last win, you have to go all the way back to January 16th of '93, 22 months ago, when he stopped Pierre Kotzer in 8 rounds in a fight in Reno. There's a nice combination from Foreman.
And that was coming off a fight that many people thought he had lost Alex Stewart just prior to that.
Foreman missing. Started to use the old pushing strategy.
But what's happening is once he's getting in on the inside, he's not doing anything. He's not using his weight advantage or his strength to try to muscle Moorer down. Even leaning on him would be something at this point.
And consequently, referee Joe Cortez has had very little to do in this fight so far. Only been a couple of clinches. Foreman takes a big, deep breath right there at ring center. Leaping in with the right hand, but Foreman got his head in front of it.
And he's able to leap in and leap out before George can react. George has absolutely no ability right now to react to Moorer when Moorer comes on the inside.
Good jabs again by Moorer, who's dominating this round. And now you see the left eye of Foreman beginning to get pretty puffy underneath. He's eaten a lot of jabs on that side of the face. Moorer now showing some movement, dancing a little, showing some lateral movement. Foreman chasing him. Michael Moorer incoming.
At will would be probably even a better description.
Well, Foreman has landed many punches tonight. He has not seemingly had the effect tonight on Moorer that he did on Evander Holyfield in 2 or 3 of those rounds of their fight 3 years ago.
And again, Moorer not known at heavyweight necessarily for his chin being dropped by the likes of Bigfoot Martin, Bert Cooper, Evander Holyfield. It has to make you wonder, is it that all of a sudden Michael's got a great chin, or has George finally lost that famous punch?
George is going to have to get to work because he's got less than 5 rounds to go now. And he possibly already is in a position of needing some real drama. There's a right hand that forced Moore to give ground. He backs Moore into the ropes. Now wait to see if Moore here answers back. Good right uppercut from Foreman. Now Moore slaps his gloves together, and we've got some combat going on now.
Not what I would want Moore to be doing if I was Teddy Atlas right now. You took his shot, get out of there. Don't start trading with George Foreman in close while you're hurt. George is one of the great finishers.
Saw Moore give ground, and he backed into the ropes, and then Foreman was able to also come up with an uppercut.
Whoa!
Foreman waddled across the ring. Looked like he tripped a little, though. I don't think he's hurt.
A lot of what George has said about letting fighters off the hook and younger fighters off the hook is that he doesn't have necessarily the ability anymore to finish a fighter. He should have been all over Michael Moore than throwing 3, 4, 5-punch combination.
George Foreman, in his prime, perhaps possessor of the most terrifying punch in heavyweight history.
Lifted Joe Frazier off the ground.
Good combination from Moore. Remember the 7th round of the Holyfield fight when Foreman was hurt badly at the end of that round. He had enjoyed a big opening portion of the round. So this perhaps might go according to that script, although Moore has not yet hurt Foreman badly in this round.
And in my opinion, George shouldn't take 1/10 of the punishment in the Holyfield fight that he's taken to this point.
Now Moore appears to have things back in control once again.
And stealing the round back from George.
He may very well do that now after Foreman held him to clear advantage in the opening minute and a half of this round.
George has got to let that right go. He's there. Moore is there for him to throw to right.
Big exchange, combination from Moore, round 8.
Begging Moore, move to your right. Stay away from George's right hand, and the only way you can do that is by moving to your right. He doesn't want to get lulled in and get clocked like he did earlier in round number 8.
Now Foreman had his best opportunity. It appeared in the first minute of that round. He drove Moore back into the ropes, landed 2 or 3 right hands in succession.
And Teddy's telling him stay on the outside. I don't think he cares at this point, at least not for round number 9 in particular, whether he's going to knock out George or not. Building up a nice lead here. Don't get careless and move to your right and stay away from George's right hand. And so far he's listening to Teddy.
Good right hand by Moore, and follows it up with an uppercut. Michael Moore, obviously, through the years, as he's come up to the heavyweight, has continued to develop as a fighter. And while he does not possess the same devastating punch that he did as a light heavyweight, he's improved in his skills as well. And so that has enabled him to reach this lofty plateau where he now sits.
On a skill level, you got to say he improved 200%. He didn't have a devastating jab as a light heavyweight. He was just able to go out there and take guys out with brute power. And when he was in with good skilled boxers, the Leslie Stewarts of the world, even Frankie Swindell gave him a hard time as a light heavyweight. But he was able to get by with the punching power.
Foreman here in round 9 is yet to land an effective blow through the first minute and a half. There's a jab from George.
Now he's got a little bit of what, if you would have tried to choreograph the fight in advance, this is a little bit more of what you expected. He's got George chasing him. He's moving to his right. He's using the jab. He's not going in and trading with George as he had done in the earlier rounds, Richard.
Foreman almost squared right up to him. You know, in addition to all the skills that we just talked about him developing, obviously his confidence has been built to the point where he's supremely confident when he enters a ring.
Well, at this point, he beat Evander Holyfield at heavyweight. He's gotten up off the floor from heavyweight punches. He's got greatly developed boxing skills, and I don't think we can measure at this point how much Teddy Atlas has had an effect on Michael Moorer also as a fighter on the confidence level and taking him out from this dark, brooding figure to make him feel good about himself.
That dark, brooding figure still is much of the public persona of Michael Moorer, which is why he remains a great mystery to many boxing fans. He probably has a lower profile than any heavyweight champion that I can recall. Right hand to the body by Foreman as the round comes to an end, but Foreman didn't do much in that round, and he may not have much left.
It's going to take more than a knockdown to put him back in this fight, at least on my unofficial scorecard.
Well, so you might be able to make a argument for George for one round there, or two perhaps, but where they were fairly close, but obviously he is well behind, and he's got to pick it up. Angelo Dundee, of course, was in a similar situation with Muhammad Ali against Larry Holmes, a guy well past his prime, taking on a champion in his prime. Ali got into cosmetic, beautiful shape. Everybody saw Ali, and they all went running to the betting windows to bet on him, driving the odds down, much the way that the odds were driven down in this fight when they saw Foreman look in reasonable shape. And now George, following the advice of Angelo Dundee, has come out here strong in round number 10. Looking to land that right. There's a left hook that he finally landed tonight. That's a tremendous punch for George when he can land it, but it hasn't been there for him.
Very tough punch, though, to land against the southpaw, Rich. And that takes a big part of George's arsenal away, but at his age, did he really take the time, though, to work on something else that would work against the southpaw as some other challenger might do? He just figured it's another fighter, left-handed, right-handed, this is the way I fight. And like you said,
there's the left hook from Foreman. That one rattled Moorer a little bit, and another punch from Foreman, and another left hook, and Moorer's leg actually slipped out from underneath him. So again, I think Moorer has felt the power of Foreman, what power is left even in round 10 of a fight in which he is desperately behind, and Teddy Atlas concerned in the corner.
Well, another reason that the left hook is landing is Teddy said to Michael, move all the time to your right now and stay away from the right hand, so George had to adapt, and there he goes, he's walking into the left hook.
George Foreman enjoying his best round of the fight here in round 10. There's a right hand. Down goes Moorer. He's flat on his back. He may not get up.
Not maybe. He's not moving.
Moorer could be about to lose the heavyweight title.
I don't believe this.
So Cortez pulls off the count. It is over.
Holy cow.
Foreman has pulled off the miracle that no one thought possible. George Foreman
is still down. Moorer cannot get up. He's still down. He doesn't know where he is. He's bleeding from the nose. He walked into a picture-perfect left-right combination.
An unbelievable, a stunning finish.
Listen to it,
10 rounds of a heavyweight championship fight that has left this MGM Grand crowd of nearly 15,000 in total disbelief. George Foreman was picking up steam from the moment that 10th round began, Arnie, and he never let up.
Angelo Dundee said to him between rounds, you got to do something, kid. You're behind on points. We talked about whether he would have the motivational problem. Moorer kept moving to his right. Teddy Atlas said, move only to your right. Stay out of the way of the right hand. Foreman started landing that left hook. Landed a picture-perfect left-right. Somebody's fainted in the ring.
It is one of Foreman's handlers. This is one of the most stunning, incredible finishes in heavyweight history.
Goodbye, Jersey Joe. Walcott's record as the oldest heavyweight champion. He's almost 46 years of age.
And George Foreman, unbelievably, miraculously, is once again the heavyweight champion of the world. Now let's take a look at the replay.
Watch for the beautiful left hook right hand combination. He walked right into the left hook, followed by the right. Teddy Atlas kept saying to him, move only to your right. George adapted by Moorer only moving to his right, which now finally allowed George to start landing the left hook, which we didn't see for the first 8 rounds. Moorer out cold.
You asked several times during the fight if Foreman's punch deserted him. It turned out not to be the case. There's that right hand going in on Moorer. Down goes Moorer. And Arnie, I think we could all tell that as soon as he hit the canvas, he was done. It was over.
The experts said coming into this fight that if Foreman hit Mora the way he was hit by Bert Cooper, that he would not get up. And there you have it. What does this do to the heavyweight division? You've got a man who's going to be, when he defends the title for the first time, 46 years of age, Rich.
There's George Foreman. Here's the announcement now from Michael Buffer.
MGM Grand, the impossible dream has
A history of sport.
I mean, we're sitting here with a situation, unofficially, I virtually had it a shutout at that point for Michael Mora. Maybe marginally George Foreman had won 1 or 2 rounds. I've got to tell you, though, that
There's Big George. He's totally exhausted himself.
Oh!
Foreman was totally blown away himself. And now we'll hear from the heavyweight champion
of the world.
Here's Larry Merchant now getting ready with the new heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman.
Congratulations. This is an impossible dream. Tell us your thoughts about what you just accomplished.
Well, for all of my old buddies in the nursing home and all the guys in jail, I always remember that song, When You Wish Upon a Star. Doesn't matter who you are, anything your heart desire can come to you if you just don't give up on your dreams. I'm so happy, and I want to thank Seth Abraham, because I called him up on the phone and said, you know, this fight can happen if you want it to happen. Seth argued a little bit. He said, well, George, it can happen then. So that man who runs HBO is a special human being.
Thank you for the plugs, and I'm sure that Seth appreciates it.
Tell him to give me a bonus, please.
George, you were having a hard time, it seemed. He was beating you to the punch, hitting you a lot of good stiff punches. You were hitting him with punches, and yet he was right there. What happened in the last round?
Well, I had the power this time. Bob Cook here. We trained about trimming down, but at the same time, what was that, carbohydrates and stuff he gave me? Told me I'd be stronger and I'd be able to eat Wendy's hamburgers all the way through training. So I was able to get my cheeseburger and at the same time have that energy for the last, because nobody can keep taking those kind of punches he took for 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds. It's got to just kill off sooner or later.
Were you ever hurt or seriously stung?
He had power, and every time he touched me on top of the head, it would just shake my body. The man is powerful.
Well, going into the last 3 rounds, were you ready to commit everything to it? Because you were staying on a nice steady pace until
the referee told me in the ring that there would be no 3 knockdown rule here. So I knew that I was going to have to punish, and get a straight knockout. The 3 knockdowns would not count. And it was hard for me to make that decision in my dressing room that I was going to have to punish this man. But they were not going to give me a 3 knockdown, so I had to take it easy, and eventually mount up the punishment. That's not what I like to do, but they gave me no alternative. They took away that 3 knockdown rule.
I don't quite get the logic of that, George, but you've always had your own, and it works.
Yeah, but I could have knocked him down 3 times early and won this thing, I think. But I had to continue beating and punching me with stiff right hands. That's not the kind of punishment you want to give young boys, because he got a year. Mohammed didn't punish me that much. He just knocked me down.
All right, we're going to go in a moment to the tape of that last round and the knockdown.
All right, our congratulations to the newly crowned, it's almost unbelievable to say, the heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman. Arnie, let's take another look at what went on as the miracle of George Foreman has reached its pinnacle here in round number 10.
Well, get ready to watch. Michael Mora is going to move to his right. He's going to be set up. George is going to hit him with a picture-perfect left hook followed by the right, and that's going to be all they wrote. He started to be able to land the left hook a little bit in the 9th round. The 10th, though, we were saying, Mora kept walking into that left hook and allowed George to add that to the arsenal where he was short. And there goes Mora down. And that was it. By 3, we knew he wasn't getting up, and he didn't get up for a long time after the count was over. You know, Rich, it's so rare that you're afforded the luxury of being able to see sporting history, boxing history. This is a truly incredible occurrence.
And an amazing accomplishment. Mora was trying desperately to get up. He actually rolled over and tried to push himself up, but he was nowhere near doing it when he was knocked out. And so now we must wonder, Oliver McCall is out there, and George Foreman now with 2/3 of the heavyweight championship,
well,
the future of the heavyweight division. is certainly something that is going to be extremely interesting in the months to come. But tonight we've been very happy, and Arnie, it's been a big night, heavyweight history made here this evening.
Maybe the biggest, and we could wind up seeing George and Larry Holmes. You know, remember, Larry's fighting Oliver McCall. What a night that'll be.
Well, we hope you fans have enjoyed it. We certainly enjoyed being able to bring it to you worldwide tonight. Thanks very much for being with us as George Foreman came out well behind on points, no doubt, and in the 10th round landed the right hand heard round the world. George Foreman, the heavyweight champion of the world once again. Good night, everyone, from Las Vegas, Nevada, USA.